Well, let's get started. Looks like everyone has their audio hooked in, and so there's a small group of us, but we've got some really good review of APR today. So let's go ahead and get disclaimed.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Okay. Sorry, there's an airplane flying over my house. Okay, let's go ahead now that we're disclaimed. Let's move on. Okay, again, welcome to your NAL ED Program Talking Circle. Today we have joining us your program officer and discretionary group leader, Donna Sabres Burns. Hey, Donna.
Hey, everybody, and thank you so much for keeping things going last week. I had a family emergency, so I apologize. I could not be at that APR training, but I'm so happy that we have this as follow-up for any questions that may come up or anything else you'd like to discuss. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Donna. So let's get moving. Again, we are primarily focused today on the APR and just sort of being able to ask any questions you have. Donna, do you have any program updates that you want to provide?
Sure. As far as program officer, exactly that. We have been advertising actually two positions to add to our discretionary grant, and one of which, of course, will be for our NAL program. And unfortunately, we had the first two tries. We have in our regulations to have Indian preference when hiring. That's what they call it, Indian preference. And we kept getting these short lists of people who were not native. And so we'd have to throw it back to them. And I think the third time's the charm. We're still waiting to hear. It just closed. So they're busy going through. So hopefully we'll have somebody here and can be on board with you. But just wanted you to be aware that, you know, we're trying behind the scenes. So that's pretty much all I have for now.
Okay, great. Well, that's some hopeful news. Hopefully, you guys get more hands on deck, right? And so, the other thing we'll be covering is your student artist competition that's coming up. And then again, like I said, we'll be doing some APR, check for understanding, providing an opportunity for you to ask any questions. I'm sure you folks are deep into your APR right now. And then again, at the end, we'll be looking at upcoming events. We've got a bunch of things happening in April and May. So again, if you didn't know, your APR is due April 29th. We did have your APR webinar. You can go and access that recording. If you need any help in going through, or maybe you missed the APR webinar, you can go back and check it out. Or sometimes, you know, you're in the middle of it and you're like, wait, what was I supposed to do? Again, that's a great resource to go back to, and you can scroll through the recording to get to maybe you need more information about Section A, your explanation of progress. And so you want to be able to just look at that part. It's a great resource. Again, your submission deadline is April 29th at 4:30, 59 seconds Eastern time. Remember, again, it's Eastern time, so make sure you are adjusting your own work schedule to make sure you hit that deadline. Again, we're not the only program that's going to be submitting APRs, and so you don't want to sort of get into G5 late. You want to get in. You should be, at least if you haven't today, take a couple minutes to go in and look at G5. Make sure you have access to it. That you are the program director of record, and that you can maybe pull down your cover sheet and get it signed. All of those preliminary things. But again, make sure you have access to G5. Okay, I wanted to start today. Usually this comes at the end of our sessions, but it's such an exciting opportunity that I wanted to move it to the front of our session. Um, Back in the day, the Office of Indian Education had a very active and robust student artist competition. They took a little hiatus and now they're back in the swing of things. Getting a student artist competition happening again, really to sort of be a part of the 50th year celebration. And so we really want to encourage you, not just your students that maybe you touch, but any of your partners who are working with Native American, Alaska Natives, even Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island artists. So I know you have very like diverse school settings, and so get this out to the students, your partners who may be working with these students. There's three categories. One is art, which can be all different types of forms of art or mediums of art: painting, drawing, printmaking, mixed media, photography, computer art, textiles. Again, this incorporates a lot of the cultural arts pieces um, into this art category. This category is open for children or students from early child education through grade 12. We also have a writing category, which is open to students in grades 4 through 12. It's a personal narrative essay. It could be 1 to 2 pages and 12-point font. Then there's a really exciting piece is a video. You know, a lot of our kids are doing TikTok and they're very accustomed to videotaping themselves. And so this is an opportunity for them to share a performance, a personal performance piece. No longer than 3 minutes, a little longer than TikTok, but I'm sure they have a lot to share. And again, this is open to students in grades 4 through 12. We have extended the deadline to April 29th. So again, we really want to encourage you to share this information with not just your own students, but partners, schools, community organizations that you're working with. And give our artists an opportunity to shine their light and show and share their skills. The winners of the award will be announced during the 50th celebration of the Office of Indian Education. Do you folks have any questions about that?
What's the new deadline?
April 29th.
April 29th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great. Can I show you a little bit of artwork that one of my students did?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're doing a story. The students are writing a story about two animals. They're learning the verbs I see, or to see, to chase, and to eat. Anyway, so she did a cartoon all in Denaga.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's
look at her.
beautiful.
That is really nice.
So I wrote, because I didn't know if it would fall under writing or art, and they said probably under art, but she could
Yes.
probably even turn that into a video if she wanted to. But she incorporated feelings from another unit that we did, the verbs that we just learned. And it's just a beautiful story. I'm so excited about this contest.
Oh, that
Cool.
is so cool. And yeah, it doesn't have to be, again, any of the grantees, participants here. It can be beyond, in the native, in Indian country, anybody. And so please spread it far and wide. This is beautiful. That's so exciting.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it. Like really like when we get to see it as a all put together. That'll be
Matter of fact, Julian just now snuggled in some nails. So I've got my art pieces from the last 12 years ago that were winners, and we're hanging them in our offices. And I know some of our winners from the time before, it's also on the 7th floor where the secretary is. So the potential is there to get some great observances and some recognition, and I think that's very exciting.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Great. So again, in the chat, Sarah noted that the student artist competition is due the same deadline as the APR. So if you forget about what the deadline for the student artist competition, just remember it's the same day as the APR. And I know you guys have that one in your head. Alrighty. So let's move on. Great. I'm looking forward to seeing all of the art. Okay, so we're just going to spend a little bit of time. Well, not a little bit of time. We're going to just spend some time on going over the APR and providing an opportunity to just maybe highlight some key areas and also give you a chance to ask questions. Why don't we take a minute as I talk through this slide? If you don't have already, we're going to do a Kahoot. And so you may want to load Kahoot. I will put the link in here in the chat. 1 second.
This will give you a leg up. So when we have our product directors meeting and perhaps you fall into someplace, I don't know, a Kahoot, maybe you'll already have that down and how to use it. And
Yes, yeah. Because I know in one of my sessions, I'm going to be doing a Kahoot. So it'll get you geared up for it. Okay, so I just put in the chat how to get into Kahoot. If you don't have the app on your phone, you can do this on your phone or on your desktop. And so, but before we go there, I just wanted again to restate the importance of checking into G5 if you haven't done that already. You want to make sure that you have access, that everything you need as far as all your different sections on the APR are accessible to you. We want to encourage you again because sometimes G5 will time out while you're writing, or maybe might be writing and need to go look at a paper. It might time out to do your writing separately, and then to go ahead and when you go into G5, have everything ready to go, and then you can just sort of cut and paste into the different sections in G5. But you really, if you haven't done so already, you want to get into G5 to make sure you have access to it. Also, again, like I said, we're not the only program in the Department of Education that will be submitting APR. So you don't want to wait until the last day. The sooner you can get it in, the better. I know sometimes you may have to be waiting for maybe your financial piece, or maybe getting the cover sheet signed and back to you, but don't let that stop you from completing sections, from completing the executive summary, section A, section B, and section C, or maybe just section C if you're waiting for the financials. Try to complete what you can. It will save it for you when you press save. Also, you want to make sure when you are, let's say you've uploaded everything and you see, all of the documents and it all says completed, that doesn't mean it's submitted. You need to go down to the bottom and press submit and go through the process of submitting all your documents. Just because all your documents say complete on G5 does not mean you have completed the submission process. So just I know you folks are acquainted with the G5 because you probably had to do this last year, but I do want to make sure you remember that key point, even for our veterans of G5. Are there any questions? Okay, well, you guys are on it. Again, right here is the help desk. If you have any questions related to G5 and submitting your documents, you want to go there. If you have any questions regarding, your GEPRA, regarding your whether you put a ratio, and what is the ratio, what goes into explanation, what's part of Section C, that question you should gear towards either your program officer or the OIE technical assistance team. Anything having to do with the mechanics of G5, that would be a question for help desk. Okay, so let's go ahead and move over to Kahoot. I'm gonna go there, switch my screen. Share it. Okay, let's see. Can you folks all see the Kahoot screen? Okay, there we go. It moved. It took a little bit. All right. Okay, I see we have some people already in the Kahoot. Awesome. So again, this Kahoot. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert. Sorry about that you're unable to do the Kahoot. Well, you can go ahead and you can put your responses if you'd like in the chat. That way you can still play along out, and I will, if you can't see it, I will read it to you. Okay, I love a spring break. Okay, let's move forward and get this Kahoot started. Okay, here's a question. The expiration year of the ED 524B form should be 1990, 1966, 2024, or 2022. You can go ahead and select your... Oh, awesome. Yes. So we do have the correct year, which will be up in the right-hand corner of that ED 524B form, is 2024, if I can talk to this morning. You want to make sure you have the correct year because they do expire. Alrighty, we have a leader. Let's move forward. The reporting period for this APR should be, go ahead and select the correct reporting period. Alrighty. Yes, so the correct reporting period is October 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022. So everything in your APR should be reporting on that, the activities of that time period. Awesome. Let's move on. Okay, so this is a portion of your, cover sheet where you are reporting on your performance measures. This is number 12 on your cover sheet. And the question asks, are complete data on performance measures for the current budget period included in the project status chart? And you would reply, yeah. Oh, okay, here's the question. It's a true or false. If I reported 999 for 2 measures, should I check yes or no on that question? That's correct. That's false. Awesome. Great job, you guys. Moving on. So here's a question. Who signs the APR cover sheet? A financial officer, an authorized representative, a partnering organization, or a project director? Okay, we have, awesome. We have the authorized representative. Now, within your organization, the authorized representative may be a financial officer or a project director or your executive director, but they should be authorized by your organization and be the authorized representative on record. Alrighty, let's move forward. True or false? The executive summary can be 5 pages or more. Is that true or false? Correct, that's false. So an executive summary should be no more than 2 pages. Again, if you have more information that you'd like to share, you can always put that into Section A, Explanation of Progress, or Section C, where you can provide more information.
And I really do encourage that. It's pictures can be worth 1,000 words, right? And I really enjoy sharing and seeing the things that you guys in those beautiful pictures, the documents and deliverables that you have as a result of your program. And if there's any way to share even that, that would be wonderful.
Yep, that is some good stuff. I mean, when we get to see like maybe some of your instructional materials you're developing around the language. I know I've seen even some people share their assessment pieces. It's just, or pictures of their family night. It's just really inspiring and encouraging. Okay, here's a true or false question. The executive summary should highlight successes and challenges. Is that true or false? Yep, that's true. Again, you don't have a lot of space within the executive summary, so you really want to take the opportunity to highlight successes and challenges. Again, you have more space in your section C and even in your explanation of progress to share successes and challenges. Great job, you guys. Moving forward, another true or false. For GEPR measures, report only actual ratios. Is that true or false? That's correct. True. Awesome. Good job. You guys are blowing this. Let's move forward. Another true or false. In this portion of section A, you will enter ratios only, not raw numbers. So this is looking at your project measure. Let's see what everyone comes up with. Awesome, true. Good job. Well, we're going to have blazing hot APRs this year. The explanation of progress should not, okay, this is going to take us a little moment. And I wanted to play this song because it's, oh, but it's not playing. Oh well. Provide details about reported quantitative data. Provide program participants' name, grade, and place of residence. That's correct. We never want to put, even in a report to the Office of Indian Education, any information identifying a student's name, grade, place of residence, anything personal information. But everything else is a go there. Okay, another true or false. Now we're looking at the budget narrative. I should discuss funds expended even if not reflected yet in G5 through March 31st. Is that true or false? Let's see. Okay, so it actually is true. Even if you have not, maybe it hasn't been drawn down, but you've spent the funds or you've allocated those funds through March 31st, you do want to make sure that it is reflected in your budget narrative. Okay, is that good? We got that? Any questions about that? Okay, let's move on. Oh, okay. Did you have a question, Susan? No?
Oh,
Okay.
no, I was just like, duh.
Oh no, there's no duh. I mean, it's all really, it's all just really sometimes that was a little tricky question to tell you the truth. Okay, let's go on to this quiz. This is a multi-select, so you get to choose more than one answer. The budget narrative should also include the following information: G5 drawdown frequency, discuss how much funding you anticipate remaining and why, state whether you anticipate requesting or no cost extension. So pick all that apply that should be included in the budget narrative. Yeah, that's exactly correct. So the one we probably won't choose is the funding from from other sources, unless you want to talk about maybe sustainability of your program and how you're going to sustain your program moving forward. Might be a little too early in the game for that with regards, but it's never too early to think about sustaining your program. But maybe you're not acquiring those of other additional funding. Did I confuse you more? Sorry. Okay, here's a true or false. The yellow cells have formulas that can be changed. So this is the optional budget reporting tool. And the question is true or false. The yellow cells have formulas that can be changed. That's correct. It's false. So those yellow, all you have to do is put in your numbers, and those yellow cells will create formulas and will calculate everything for you. But they are locked, and so you are unable to change those formulas. Here we go. Quiz. So this is related to section C. Should include. So this is a multiple answer question. You just select all of the things you think should be included in section C. Awesome. Okay, you do want to include all of these success stories, status of partnerships, challenges, and even key personnel changes. So maybe you've had a change in, project director is definitely a key personnel change. Maybe there's been a fiscal change of personnel. Also, there may be key instructors that have changed. Let us know through your APR. Okay, true or false? If I don't use the optional C reporting tool, I don't need to provide this information. Now, again, at the APR, we shared this new tool that is asking for additional information that's not found anyplace else. Yes. So even if you are choosing not to use the optional section C reporting tool, you still need to provide this information in another form. Awesome. Okay. Let's see, Robert. Let's see. We had 100% turnover in our finance. Do we include that? Yes, that's finance is a key personnel. So yes, you do want to include that turnover, and maybe if there's new contact information for your program officer to connect to. They usually go through the project director, but just in case, it's helpful to have some redundancy and contact, just in case they need to get a hold of someone in the organization. Yep. Oh, and Sarah's saying, yep, that's great information to include in section B. Awesome. Alrighty, let's move on. You guys are doing really good. We're almost to the end. This is a multi-select. If I need help or have a question, I can. So you can select any one of the appropriate ones, multiple. And Sarah was, I think Susan was saying it only let her click one. Sorry about that. Oh, you got it. Okay. Yes, all of these, you can contact your OIE SEIservices.com. It's not too late to schedule a TA session on Calendly. If you are new to G5, we have worked with side by side with a grantee as they go into G5 to upload their documents. And so we have sat in on that session. That's one way to use your TA session and Calendly coaching session. So it's not just for maybe if you have a question around the APR. It can also, we've sat, like I said, with an actual grantee and gone through the submission process with them, step by step. You can also rewatch the NYCP APR webinar recording, and then also contact Donna if you have any questions. She's there and ready to assist. I think all of our goal is to get sparkly APRs. Um, so I will start to input my APR in G5 on Friday, April 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is that true or false? And even if it's true, say false. Yes, so you should not, I really, while it's not for, 29 Eastern time, it is cutting it very close. And you never know what will happen with technology, with your internet service. Don't leave it to the end. Yes, I'll put a link, Susan, for the Calendly. Let me go grab that and let me switch over, but I'll get that to you by the end. Awesome, you guys did so great. Again, I think between you folks, definitely OIE and your program officer and your TA team, we're really focused on getting some really strong APR so that you can really highlight the amazing work. And we're just trying to we make this process very clear and provide as much support as we can for your success in submitting the APR. Were there any questions? You guys did really good. All right, let's me move back over to our presentation. And let me close this out. Okay. All righty. Let me get all my screens adjusted. There we go. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, I just wanted to spend a little time. I know, I can't, so many times during our talking circles, we've gone over the GEPRA, and you might be like, Olani, like, what's up with all this GEPRA stuff? Well, we just, again, want to make sure this is really important information because this is what OIE then submits to Congress. And so we want to make sure we're reflecting the amazing work that you folks are doing. Not just that, but also to make sure that Congress understands the importance of your programs and your work. And this is one tool that we can use to communicate that. Okay, so again, I'm sure you're all very familiar with your GEPRA, but we're going to run through again how you should be measuring your GEPRA. And hold on, my screen just went kafloozy. Let me get it to the right place. All right. So I know you folks are we've talked a lot about the proficiency and progress measures. So again,
You want to sit in on this, or are you busy? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, sorry.
No, no problem. The more the merrier. So this is what your ratio should look like. On the top of your ratio, it should be the number of students to reach proficiency in the native language. And I know you folks know that proficiency is how you are defining proficiency. Okay? You get to decide how proficiency is defined and measured. And then the bottom number is the total number of students served. So for example, maybe Susan is serving in her language program, she's serving 300 students. And of the 300, let's say 299 are meeting proficiency standards. And so she would put 299 over 300. Okay, that's pretty clear. Are there any questions about this measure, this GEPRA measure, and how it should be measured?
I just wanted to go through some of the questions that was going through my mind yesterday.
Okay.
So I had in the fall, I had 159 students, and then one class, the certified teacher left, so then we had a long-term sub, and it was just too much unknown for them to add in the video conference. So then they only attended the first quarter. And then I had another class of 5 students that went the whole fall semester, but they chose another elective for the spring semester. So yesterday, my question was, do I include those students since I served them for part of the school year. One class I was able to assess, the other class I was not able to assess. So I'm going to include them as part of my total number served,
Okay.
but then my number assessed is gonna be lower because I can't, especially for the one that only went, 1 quarter, I'm not able to count it. And I'll just put that in the explanation.
Yes. Got you. That's right on the point, Susan. That's where you will communicate the what was going on with those numbers. So you could say, like, I served 159, but of that 159, so many only went for a partial part of the quarter, and one, whatever the circumstances were that you just shared, you want to articulate that. Now, if those students, I mean, I don't know, maybe, again, when you're thinking about proficiency, those students that went for only a quarter, did they meet a quarter, what you would determine would be the level of proficiency for a quarter? So if you assess them.
Yeah, I didn't give them an assessment.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine. So just in your explanation of progress, communicate that whole scenario, so that when it's read by your program officer, they understand what was going on.
Yeah, and so for the 5 students that attended for 1 semester, I didn't have a baseline because they hadn't been in the program for
Yeah.
few years, but they made substantial progress. So I'm going to put that as the progress that they made at the time of their assessment.
Okay. And so that would be really like we're moving us on to. Oh, shucks! It moved ahead. Sorry. Where are we? Proficiency progress. Here, this is the GEPR number 2, right? And so if they're making progress, then I would make sure to report that group in this measure. Any other questions regarding GEPRA 1 or 2? Again, progress is defined by how you are defining progress. Any other questions? GEPR number 2 again is measured similarly to GEPR number 1, where on the bottom number is the total number of students served, and then the top number is the number of students that made progress learning the native language. Okay. All right, let's move over to the next GEPR measure. Okay, so in GEPR measure 3 and 4, we get a little bit more complex as it relates to how we are reporting these numbers. So like in GEPR 2, the grantee defines, you're going to be defining academic improvement. Now that might be GPA, or it might be an English language assessment, a performance test, or maybe a more relevant and available measures. However you are defining academic improvement and measuring. So for this, I am having a hard time talking this morning. For this ratio, the top number, if the number of kids who made progress, and the bottom number is the number of kids served. Again, for example, if you're in your language programs, the number of kids served are 300, you are looking at your academic, how you're defining academic improvement, and of those 300, how many have shown academic improvement? Okay. And one of the reasons why this is a really interesting measure as far as GEPR measures go is because there's been, a lot of research done on the impact of learning native languages into other areas of academic improvement. And so really, again, the theory or the idea and the research behind this measure is that when a student is learning their native language and learning their native identity, they improve in other areas of academics. And so this is sort of, the theory behind this GEPRA measure. So it's a really interesting and important measure to gather over years as it relates to the impact and the importance of native language learning. Are there any questions about this measure? All of you have a real clear idea about what your definition of academic improvement is and what is the tool or the measure that you are using to um, determine that. Everybody's got that, right? Okay. All right, we're moving on then. I'm going to take silence as a yes, we got it. Let's move on, Oleni. Okay, so this one is a little tricky. So what we're looking at is the difference in average daily attendance percentage between participants and comparison group. So again, this has your participants in your language program with a comparison group that is like or similar to your language group. So you probably wouldn't want to have elementary school students and a comparison group of high school students. You'd probably want to find another comparison group of elementary students. So if you are providing like a language classes within a larger school setting, that would be you could take your language students and then take the larger population of the entire school who may not be participating in your language program as the comparison group. Okay, and so what happened, what should be reported here is the bottom number is 100. Okay, so just put that in your notes. That's a guarantee. Okay, your top number is the difference between your two comparison groups. Okay, let me just let you think about that and how that sort of works with your organization and what you're doing. So for this measure, you've identified a comparison group against which you're going to compare your language program participants. Okay?
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So I think I may be wrong, but I'm thinking, okay, so our school district has 323 students, and most of our language classes are, most of them are K4 or K5. Some of them are up K8.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we had it, last semester we had K12. So anyway, so our comparison group is basically that elementary junior high group. So then I would have to go in and count all of our students between K8 and then subtract out the ones who's in the program, and that would be the comparison group.
Yes.
Ay.
Susan, before you panic, I'm just going to
Yeah.
jump in real quick. This is
Okay.
Sarah. I am blanking on her name, but the lady who does y'all's data, your attendance system.
Patty.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name. Patty already should have flagged in y'all's attendance system the students who are enrolled in your classes and the students who are not. And so John and David typically get a report from Patty with that ADA for the two different groups of kids, because that's how we've reported it for your grant for the last 4 years. So,
okay.
So she should already have that flag set up to where she can run you a report.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Awesome. No panicking. So let's just walk through again how to calculate the difference. So if your participant group attendance is 98% and your comparison group, so that would be the other students within your school who are not in your language class, is 96%, The difference between the two is 2%. Does everybody see that? So you would report 2 over the 100. Okay, the 100 is going to be there no matter what. Okay? Does that make sense? Does everybody understand that? Now, let's go to the next one. Let's say that again, your participant group, again, your language students, their attendance is at 89%, but the comparison group attendance is at 93%. So the comparison group has higher attendance than your participant group. So the difference is a minus or -4. Now, if you have any negative number, meaning that the comparison group is higher than the participant group, you will report 0. Any questions about that? So I'm going to just do a real quick check for understanding. If you folks can put in the chat, if your comparison group has, let's say, 96% attendance, and your participant group has 90% attendance, your difference is 10%, -10%. What number will I be putting on that top portion of the ratio? That's correct, Susan. So again, if you have a negative number, you will be putting 0. Okay? All right. So we should be seeing, again, sparkly ratios as it relates to the GEPRA measure. I hope that made reporting your GEPRA measures even more clearer. Is that a thing? Even more clearer? I don't know if that's a thing. More clearer and provide more clarity around your GEPRA measures. So again, GEPRA, we are not putting in the target. There should be nothing in the target columns. We should only be reporting in the actual performance data columns. Okay, so where you see that big 0 with the line through it, there should be nothing there, only in the actual performance data. Also, you want to make sure you are including your explanation of progress and the information as it relates to your GEPRA measure. You want to make sure you have GEPRA and you're defining GEPRA versus project. Again, we have it right there, the actual performance data and the associated explanation of progress. Now, I know a lot of times you folks will put the GEPRA 1 and GEPRA 2 on the same form. Please, in your explanation of progress, identify your explanation by like 1A and 1B. So when you're reading it, we can make sure that we're aligning the explanation to the appropriate GEPRA measure. Okay, here's your project status chart. Again, this is related to your actual project measures from year 1. So now you should just be taking your the project measures that you submitted in your APR for year 1 and put them word for word here in your performance measure box. Excuse me. You want to make sure you are checking the appropriate project measure type, so it should be project, and that you are including both target and actual ratios. So for your own program's project measures that you've created, it should include both target and actual ratios. Any questions? Okay, let me move my screen over, make sure I'm getting everything. Okay, here we go. We have another example of your project measure. You want to make sure you have your project measure word for word from your original. Make sure that you're putting the appropriate measure type. It's a project measure. Your actual performance data ratio. And making sure that you have your explanation of progress. Alrighty. So here we're looking at the optional budget reporting tool. If you choose to use your own tool, you still need to include all of the information that's being requested by this tool. Oh, I lost my cursor, sorry. Okay. So I'm sure you folks are very acquainted with this form. Again, you can only enter information in the yellow areas. All other fields will auto-calculate. Make sure that you complete both the numeric and the narrative field. So there are sections, particularly the rationale for available funds and intended use of remaining carryover funds are a narrative, not a huge one, but it should also be connected somehow to your budget narrative. You can be explaining a little bit more information regarding either of those two columns in this report. Are there any questions? Okay, and if you weren't able to attend the Null APR webinar, we did introduce a new Section C reporting tool. And the purpose of this is because we get really important information, but we don't get some really critical information anyplace else in the APR. And so Section C, we wanted to provide you with another opportunity to provide information. Now, again, you are not mandated to provide, to complete this tool, but you do provide all of the information in some other form for Section C. Any questions there? Okay. So here is what the Null APR checklist was, another tool that was created. It is a really great tool to sort of walk through all the different parts of your APR, whether it's from the cover sheet all the way to Section C. You can look through your different sections and make sure you have all of the elements before going ahead and going into G5 and uploading all of your information. Again, it's a really helpful tool to walk through your APR. Are there any questions about this new APR checklist? Again, 2 new tools this year, both the optional Section C tool, reporting tool, and this APR checklist. All right, let's move on. So again, I said this earlier, you want to make sure that the project director is of record in G5, because they're the only person who can submit in G5. Also, G5 will not accept reports after the reporting deadline of April 29th, 2022, 4:30 and 59 seconds Eastern Time. Once that time passes, so once we get to the 60 seconds, I don't know if that happens or it just automatically turns to 4:31. G5 will shut down your reporting and you will not be able to complete your report. Even if, like I said earlier, when you go into G5 and you're uploading all your information and it says complete, if you have not submitted and gone through the submission process, it will shut down. So you want to make sure you have gone through all of the submission process prior to the deadline. You could be in the midst of submitting and it shuts down and you will not have a submitted G5 by the deadline. So again, just on the safe side, do it way ahead of when it's even due, which would mean sometime next week. Okay,
Can
important
I
reminder.
ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, this is my first time uploading to G5. Can we do it in chunks, or you have to do it in one fell swoop?
You can do it in chunks. It will save it.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah. It was I had the opportunity to walk through the submitting an APR with another grantee, which was really helpful for me to understand the system, because we can't just get into that system, and so um, it was that's just an aside. So again, you really want to, if it's your first time, you might want to, Susan, and I will have the Calendly up. Um, Reserve some time, and we can walk through it. Also, so you do want to finalize and submit your APR. That's what I'm talking about, is making sure you are submit your documents. You press that submit. I think it's down on the bottom left-hand corner, but don't quote me on that. Prior to the due date, and don't leave your APR in draft form. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about going ahead and submitting all your documents through G5 and pressing that submit button, because there is a little bit of a process after that.
So I have another question.
Yes.
Okay, so we prepare all of our documents, and then it's going to ask us to upload the different sections, and then
Go ahead. Sorry.
and then because I would want to make sure that what we save on our computer is what's submitted.
Mm,
So do I just want to put like, you know, APR section A and then the date, like if we're going to submit it on April 20th?
yeah. Well, for example, you can submit the like a PDF, but what you really I think the when I got to walk through with another grantee, what she did was cut and paste from her section A into the section A in G5. And that was,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that was really helpful, because she actually, in through that process, got to check to make sure she had everything in the right place. By actually cutting it from a form that she was working on her computer to the actual form in G5.
And does it allow you to print out what you submitted?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
and Susan, if y'all are still using the project planner, you can just copy and paste straight from there into G5.
okay, that sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, and for everybody else, one other tip I'll throw out there just while I'm unmuted is that the other great thing about doing your work outside of G5 and then copying and pasting it in is that G5 has no spell check, no grammar check, none of those things that I think all of us in this technology-driven world are a little bit spoiled to. And so if you type directly into G5, we'll often see some typos and maybe missteps there, just because we're so used to those things getting caught by our word processors that, just a little tip there. Maybe do it outside. It'll catch those little whoopsies for you. And then you're putting a nice polished product into G5.
Yeah. Great point, Sarah. As a person who leans on spell check and even Grammarly. Okay. Any other questions? Good question. Okay, again, just in case you didn't know, your APR due date is Friday, April 29th. APRs must be submitted via G5 and must be in the system by 4:30:59 seconds Eastern Time on April 29th. Here you go, Susan, there is the link, and let me get and copy it, and I'll throw it in the chat for you. Let's see right here. There you go. There's the Calendly link. We have office hours coming up. I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions from all of the grantees, the OIE grant program grantees. So you might want to check in on that. Maybe if you, even if you don't have a question, you might want to, like a lot of people do, listen in, because sometimes you don't know what question you need to ask. And a lot of people really get a lot of helpful hints as they listen to other grantees ask questions. So come check out the April 28th office hours. Now, I'm hoping that by that time you've gotten all of your sections completed and maybe even uploaded, and you just, before you hit that submit button, you have one final question. But you don't have to wait to office hours to get that question answered. You can always, again, email the OIE technical assistance team if it's a short, or go ahead and if it's a longer, kind of more complex question, go ahead and book a time for individual coaching. Are there any questions? Okay, let's move forward then. A poll will be popping up. Let's see, let me get that. Oh, there we go. There's your poll. And as we're as you're completing the poll, I'm just going to walk through some upcoming events. Again, I'm sure you folks have saved this date already. We have the excuse me, project directors meeting coming up May 10th through the 12th. That's exciting. We're really looking forward to it. We got some great sessions happening and a lot of your fellow grantees sharing their lessons learned. So I really want to encourage you to make sure you save that date. Also, we're having a pre-conference session. Maybe you weren't able to participate this past year in True Colors. You now get another chance to participate. It is limited space, and it will be happening on May 9th. So it's a pre-project directors pre-conference session. It will be happening 12 to 4 Eastern time. It's very lively and interactive workshop. There is, you do need to sort of take a pre-assessment before participating. And also, because it is limited space, we really want you to commit to participating and going through completing the assessment and being engaged in the sessions. Go ahead and there's the link. All right, Sarah, beat me to the punch. There is the registration link. Go ahead and register if you weren't able to participate. Also the project directors meeting, while it's called the project directors meeting, also you can include other staff members to attend. And so maybe if other staff members are be attending other sessions, you might want to pull your team together and maybe sign up for the True Colors registration. It will really provide some insight into how your team works and the best ways for it to work.
And Olani, can I throw in 2 little tidbits on the PD meeting and True Colors? So for the PD meeting, I just want to kind of give everyone an alert. You should be getting an email from me tomorrow to go ahead and get registered for the project director meeting. So very exciting. And remember that you can bring a few members of your team. So, space is a little limited, but you still get to bring 3 people. So that means you as the project director, because project directors are required to attend the project director meeting, but then you can bring 2 other members of your team. I know some of you have multiple OIE grants, and yes, you can bring folks for each of your grants. So you're not limited to 3 total. Let's say you have 2 grants, then that means that you have 5 spots available because you have your project director seat plus 2 bonus seats per grant that you have. So you're welcome to invite those other members of your team and let them get some of the great professional development as well. We're also really excited that this year we're going to be offering some on-demand learning sessions. So we'll have all the live sessions in the afternoons, but we'll also have some on-demand learning opportunities that you can access 24/7. So look for those on the platform. And then final piece on this True Colors, as Alani said, space is limited. So if you are interested or you have members of your team who are interested, I would encourage you to try to get everybody registered within the next week to secure your spot. Mm-hmm. And that's my full commercial.
you really have the commercial voice too, so it's perfect. Awesome. So again, I guess the message is we need to get all this, get your APR done, make sure we get your students, get that information about the art contest out. Look for Sarah's email for registering for the project directors meeting, and really look around at your team and see, how to best utilize like the True Colors opportunity to strengthen your team and to build a more effective and robust and well-oiled team to provide the highest level of programming to our Native students. Because you have the skills and the knowledge, and they deserve to have their learning and knowledge at the highest level. So awesome. Let's move forward. Again, thank you folks for joining. I hope this was a good sort of touch base. If you have any questions, here are your program officer's contact information. Again, the OIE technical assistance team is always there. Stay tuned and check out OIE on Twitter at OIE Indian Ed to just sort of see what's happening, not just with OIE, but around Native education across the nation, and even sometimes the world. There's a lot of interesting work happening out there to connect to. Thank you for joining. Donna, did you have any closing thoughts or? Okay, awesome.
No.
Thank you guys.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us on spring break, Robert.
I
Hope you
know,
have a nice
goodness.
rest of your week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care. Oh,
Yeah, thank you for everything. I really appreciate the meeting. Helps out a lot.
awesome. Susan, I see I have a question on the contest. My student didn't include a translation page. Can she edit her submission?
Yes. She can go right back in and edit it. If it gives her any trouble, tell her to just resubmit it, and we'll take whatever her latest submission is, but she should be able to go in and edit it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving that opportunity.
Okay, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Friday Eve.
Yeah, Freddie.